let's talk about what meditation isn't. Before we talk about what it is, I want to talk about what it's not. Because I think there are a lot of myths out there. I think there's a lot of misinformation. And I think that a lot of that is putting people off, particularly. So let's talk about what it isn't. Welcome to the 30 Something Shift podcast, the podcast where I support women in their 30s move through the real shifts in life that shape our well-being. I'm Liv, a menstrual cycle, fertility and pregnancy yoga teacher. Here we explore our cycles, fertility, conception and pregnancy through yoga, meditation and real conversations. When was the last time you truly switched off? Not watching Netflix, not scrolling through your phone, not listening to a podcast while you fold laundry, but I mean actually genuinely switched off and allowed your mind rest and peace. I'm going to guess it's been a while, if not ever. And if you ever thought that sitting by yourself for 5 minutes in silence makes you feel really uncomfortable, then this episode is probably for you. Today we're going to talk about meditation, something that I think has got an interesting reputation and sometimes is misaligned with what it truly means. Today's episode is going to dive into what meditation can do for you as a woman in 2026 dealing with stress and modern life. I've got tips and tricks for you if you're busy, if you don't like the thought of meditation, if you've tried it before and you've hated it. My promise to you is that this episode is going to change your mind. So let's get into it. So, women in modern life, we're stressed, right? There's a lot of pressures, there's a lot of things going on, and we're living in a very much switched on, as in our nervous system is switched on, fight or flight, ready to go, way more than it's switched off or in a rest and digest. And living in that state is no wonder that we're exhausted all the time, right? This stress is having an impact on all parts of our body systems, and sleep is definitely one of those. So let's talk about what meditation isn't. Before we talk about what it is, I want to talk about what it's not. Because I think there are a lot of myths out there. I think there's a lot of misinformation. And I think that a lot of that is putting people off, particularly. So let's talk about what it isn't. So meditation isn't thinking about nothing. It's not having an empty mind or completely switching off your mind from all thoughts. If you're sitting there and you think something, you have not failed meditation. It's also not sitting in silence for an hour. That's also not what meditation is. And it's not about stopping, criticizing, or changing thoughts. So if you've ever thought any of those things were true, if you've ever thought that's what I thought meditation would need to be able to do it, you have been misinformed, and I'm here to change your mind. So let's talk about what meditation is. So meditation is a calming practice. It's obviously very linked to the practice of yoga. Meditation is a huge part of yoga. There are 8 limbs to yoga, and only one of them is actually the asanas, or the postures that we practice. There's actually 7 other limbs as to what yoga is. I do have an episode on this. I think it's episode 2, way back at the start, if you want to dive into that a bit more. So meditation and yoga are obviously very linked. Meditation is the ability to allow our thoughts to come, note them without judgment, and let them pass. That's the biggest difference between this empty your mind, don't have any thoughts while you're meditating, to actually raising an awareness to the thoughts in your mind and allowing them to be there without judgment or criticism, but also allowing them to pass. And when I teach meditation, I often talk about a cloud in the sky, because a cloud in the sky is something you may notice. You don't particularly give it a lot of time or energy. You'll notice it, it will drift past. that cloud, and I don't know a lot about cloud science, so this may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that cloud doesn't just disappear. It's still floating somewhere in the sky, much like your thoughts. You can come back to them later, but in the moment, in meditation, where we are sitting, we're going to let the thought pass. And this is such an important part of meditation that I like to make really clear, because I think we sit there with all the best intentions to be calm and meditate, but then a thought comes into our head and we kind of feel like we've failed, or we just go with that thought and spiral, and then we've ended up sitting there for 5 minutes basically worrying about something that we can't do anything about, which obviously is not the point of meditation. So I think it's really important to learn that skill of the thought is there and that's okay. I'm going to let it pass. And I can always come back to it later, because worries aren't going to disappear. Feelings aren't going to disappear. But we need to allow ourselves to not be completely taken over by them at any point, to not completely let ourselves spiral with those thoughts, and to address them at appropriate times. So that's really where meditation comes in, to an awareness and a kindness to the thoughts that we have. There's nothing wrong with them, but that we're not going to fixate on them and we're not going to give them our energy in that moment. One thing that's made my periods easier is switching to Wukka period pants. As someone who teaches menstrual cycle health and yoga for menstruation, comfort matters to me, and I know it matters to you too. I want to move, rest and work without constantly having to worry about my period. Wukka reusable period pants are stretchy, they're comfortable, they support you especially on heavy days. If you'd like to make the switch to Wukka period pants, I've put the link in the show notes. So you may be thinking, that's a great concept of not focusing on the thoughts or letting them pass by, but how do I actually do that? And the answer to that is it takes practice, but we have what we call breath awareness. So in meditation, we're drawing the focus towards our breath. And when we do this, it makes it a lot easier to take the awareness away from our thoughts. So while we're not criticizing our thoughts and we're not trying to redirect them, like think positively or think differently, we literally just tell our mind to come back to the awareness of our breath. This will also take practice, and it's important to not get frustrated with the thoughts that come up, but you literally just keep telling your mind to come back to that breath awareness. There are multiple ways that you can do this. You can just simply be aware of your natural breath rhythm. So thinking about it, breathing in, breathing out, maybe putting your hand on your chest and your tummy so you can feel the expansion of your chest and tummy as you inhale and exhale. You may prefer to do counting, so you can do different counting techniques, 1 to 7, then 1 to 14. And you can build up the numbers, so then you're also focusing on your breath, you're also focusing on counting, and it makes it a lot harder for your mind to spiral because you keep bringing it back to other focuses, keep bringing it back to those two things. And the same as if a thought pops into your mind, no criticism, we just let it pass. If you lose count, we don't criticize, we don't get flustered or angry or try to retract. Just start from fresh. Just start again. No one's checking your counting. It's not being recorded anywhere. You can literally just start back at 1 as many times as you need to until you can get into counting up higher and that practice becomes a bit easier for you. Meditation, I think, can seem quite intimidating. Often we keep moving, we keep busy because we don't really want to sit still in our thoughts. And I completely understand that. But it's quite an essential practice to be able to be comfortable with your own thoughts. But also we're creating a space where we can let those thoughts pass and we can enter a state of peace and self-awareness. And that's extraordinarily powerful. And another thing with meditation, a bit like I say with yoga, there's no goal, there's no standard or expectation. It's simply the practice itself. And I think that with that, it makes it an easier thing to achieve. Because if you practice meditation, you sit down and you only manage a minute, but in that minute, you're bringing your awareness to your breath, you're letting thoughts pass, you're practicing meditation. There's no only 1 minute or, oh, you let that thought slip in, so you failed. It's not like that. It's the practice itself. And that's why it's so important to just start, because you're never going to feel ready, maybe. You're never going to feel prepared enough or confident enough or not intimidated by it. You've just got to start. That's the most essential thing. And one of my yoga teachers in my teacher training described it in a really good way that's just stuck in my mind that I want to share with you. And he said, you can't just say, meditate, click your fingers, meditate, or tell yourself, right, I'm in a meditative state now, 1, 2, 3, go. Much like you can't tell yourself to sleep. We don't lie in bed and go sleep as a command and just fall asleep, right? If only. What we do is we create an environment where sleep is possible. Whatever that may look like for you. I won't get into one of my geeky sleep routine rants because we're talking about meditation. But whatever it is that you do as part of your sleep routine, you're creating an environment where sleep is possible. You're not going to stand up in a brightly lit room, right, and try and sleep. So whatever it is you do, how little or how extensive, like me with my sleep routine, we're creating an environment to make sleep possible. And it's just the same with meditation. This is how my teacher described it, that we're creating an environment to make meditation possible. We're sitting in a quiet, comfortable place where you feel calm naturally, whether that's in a room in your house, whether it's outside in nature, whatever feels good to you. There's no one place. Whatever feels good to you. And we're going to close our eyes. So we're taking away extra sensory stimulation, basically. So this is another part of the 8 limbs of yoga, is sensory withdrawal. And that's so that we're not distracted, because our brains like to distract us. Our brains like to make us think things and fixate on things and notice things. And sometimes it gets a bit bored and it starts to make us think about things. This is also why when you're sitting still, trying to meditate, you may suddenly get an itch or a twinge that you have to sort of readjust and stuff. That's your brain getting bored, making you do something because you're trying to meditate. So our brain tries to distract us. So as much as we can, we have sensory withdrawal. That's why we close our eyes. We go to a quiet place. We won't be interrupted. With sound, it's not necessary to meditate in silence. So when we talk about sensory withdrawal, it's not necessarily that you have to wear sort of block out earphones and not have any sound, but just be aware of the sound that's around you. So if you are meditating in a busy place with lots of sounds, you may want to block that out. Alternatively, you can choose the sound. So you can meditate to music or to nature sounds, anything that makes you feel calm. So again, we're coming back to, we're creating an environment to make meditation possible. And just like yoga practice, just like sleep, it's really individual to you what makes you feel calm. Some people fall asleep to heavy metal. I don't necessarily understand it. I fall asleep to rain sounds. But if that calms you, that makes you feel good, and it makes you sleep, then you do your thing. It's individual to you what makes you feel calm. If you don't really know, if you haven't really done meditation or a sleep routine or any of these kinds of things, then just have a little think about what makes you feel calm. Maybe write it down, and then those things can help to create your environment for meditation. And also, if you do have a room you can do it in, or the place that you go, maybe a tree you sit under in your favourite park, it kind of makes it more enjoyable and more something you're going to look forward to. rather than the intimidating thought of, I'm going to sit still in a room for 5 minutes by myself in silence. No one's going to look forward to that. That's not going to be enjoyable. And you're not creating the environment where meditation is possible. So it's pretty much a waste of your time. We don't have time to waste. We want this to be a really effective 5 minutes. I say 5 minutes because one of the biggest things I hear is I don't have time. I used to say this all the time. It became my catchphrase. I didn't have time for anything. I was completely burnt out and I hated saying it, but I was always like, I don't have time. The biggest thing I hear when I recommend meditation or yoga, I don't have time. When am I going to fit that in? 5 minutes is all I'm saying. We're going to aim for 5 minutes. To start with, you probably won't be able to do 5 minutes. It may feel too long. But if you are in that place wherever you've chosen and your eyes are closed and you're trying to do this thought and breath awareness, if you aim for 5 minutes and you do 2 or 3, that's still good. When we say 5 minutes, that isn't a set goal like holding a plank for 30 seconds. And if you don't, you haven't sort of achieved that. It's more 5 minutes is the goal. And if you can't set aside 5 minutes, then I don't know what's going on. You're way, way too busy. And that is just crazy to me. There's 5 minutes somewhere. There's a pocket of 5 minutes in everyone's day. So let's take away that excuse. Take away that barrier of time, because I get it, you don't have much time. 5 minutes is the goal, and it's possibly or most likely going to be less than that when you start. If you set aside 5 minutes, you're allowing yourself a bit of time to get into it, to get comfortable, to actually start the practice. So you probably, even if you're in that place for 5 minutes, maybe 2 of those minutes you were practicing your meditation. That's amazing. That 2 minutes will make a difference. We're not saying, right, 2 minutes now, so you build up to 10, 20, 30, and then you'll start to see benefits. You will see benefits when you start practicing meditation. That's how simple it is. That's why I want to take away all these myths about sitting in a quiet room for an hour by yourself with your thoughts. It sounds like torture to me. It isn't that. I promise you, it can be an enjoyable and really, really life-changing practice. Podcast, I talk a lot about listening to your body and slowing down. One of my favourite little rituals in the evening is a cup of Twining Sleep spiced apple and vanilla tea. It literally tastes like warm apple pie and it is so delicious. It gives my body signals that it's time to relax, unwind, and get cozy for the evening. Follow the link in the show notes if you want to try it yourself. So we've talked a lot about meditation today and it's time for a practice. So there's only so much that we can say about it. Really just starting, getting stuck in with a meditation practice is the best place to start. So I'm going to guide you through no longer than 5-minute meditation practice, all about breath awareness and letting those thoughts pass without judgment. It'll be a guided meditation with 1 minute of silence for you to really turn inward and practice those skills. Remember, there's no judgment, no standard or expectation. This is just a meditation practice. Okay, let's get started. We're going to begin the meditation now. So I want you to start by sitting in a comfortable, upright position. Softly closing your eyes. Rolling your shoulders away from your ears. Releasing any tension in your neck or your back. Just being aware of the ground beneath you, supporting you, stabilizing you. Ensuring that your jaw is soft, there's no tension there. Your forehead is soft, your eyelids are soft. Just releasing any tension in your face or your body. And start to bring awareness to your breath. Not changing or judging your breath, just simply showing an awareness. The rise and fall as you inhale and exhale. And you may notice thoughts start to come into your mind as you sit here. Know that that's okay. Let the thought come without judgment, criticism, and let the thought pass. Imagine the thought is a cloud in the sky. You notice it, but you don't need to give it any time or energy. You simply let it pass. Each thought that comes into your mind, you let pass and bring that awareness back to your breath. Allow the rhythm of your breath to calm you as you inhale and exhale. And we're going to now stay in silence for 1 minute, continuing this practice, awareness of your breath, and allowing the thoughts to come and go. I'll let you know when the minute is up. The meditation is now complete. Well done. Well done, you just did 5 minutes of meditation. So I'm hoping that this episode, learning a little bit about what meditation is, as well as what it isn't, along with this practice that I hope you stuck around for, that you see that it's so doable, right? It's not intimidating, it's not scary, and if you create that right environment for meditation to happen, you can add this as a really powerful practice to your everyday well-being routine. If you want any more resources or practices, then you'll find all the links in the show notes or on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening through to today. If you stuck around for the meditation practice, I really hope you enjoyed it and it's inspired you to start adding this to your daily life. Don't forget to subscribe or follow the show, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.